1st. And by way of a brief chair report, I wanted to share that we have our Sidewalk Special Committee meeting this Thursday at 6. Anything that you would like to add?
So thank you, Chair. So the final, the Vice Mayor, of course, put the committee together, and our findings are due to the Vice Mayor at the end of the month. This is our final meeting, so we're going to really, we're not going to have any hearings at this meeting. It's going to just be the committee members. There's 12 of us sitting together and making our plan and making sure we have all the data we need to come back with some recommendations. So it is open to the public, and it's at Lentz Health Center on Charlotte, 6 to 7:30.
I appreciate that. And then as well, I'll mention we received today, I think just within the last hour, from Mr. Hammond and Ms. Wallstrom, Public Works staff, a report I had requested earlier this month regarding the apportionment of in lieu contributions into the pedestrian benefit zones, which zones are garnering how much, to which projects they're going, and so that was just sent this afternoon, and so that will be good for reference, I think, for the committee.
And is that available on Nashville.gov, or could it be?
Good suggestion. We can ask about that.
Sorry, could I hear the question again?
Just to have the data on the pedestrian benefits allocations.
Having that on the open data portal.
Data site.
Thank you.
And then also by way of report, I wanted to thank staff. We had some questions last meeting about the Demonbreun bike lanes, and we received a detailed report about kind of the starts and stops on that project, because we had heard a lot of community concern around the amount of time that project has taken. And so I believe that was forwarded to the committee at the end of last week. So please be on the lookout for that. And then subsequent to that report, asked similarly for basically a similar accounting for our North Nashville bikeways, our core bike lanes, and just basically the bikeway program. And so we've seen some bikeways get on the ground and be finished up, I think, in North Nashville in the last week when we had some warm weather-ish. Getting closer. So that's just been a point of interest, I think, for the community and some concern in this committee. So I appreciate staff getting back to us with the Demonbreun report, and we will await the report on the other bike lanes as well. And so I want to thank also Peter Bird at Planning and Mr. Radinger on Public Works staff. Had a lengthy conversation with them last week just to kind of better understand that program and how that's working as well. The right-of-way special committee had its first meeting last week, and it will have its second and final meeting next week. I think that date is still TBD, but if you do have any questions or concerns specific to right-of-way management, please send those to Chair Sean Parker, please. Okay, and then I guess, related to Demonbreun and that final design, I had received a community question, would there be community input specific to that design? And so, that project has gone through a fair number of kind of fits and starts, and I think there is somewhat of a question in lieu of BPAC, now that we don't have BPAC now, kind of where do we get that feedback from riders and people who've had particular concerns on that street. So I think that's kind of a open question right now about what would be the most constructive way, maybe to have some folks riding in that corridor to look at that final design. But I welcome anybody's thoughts on that if you have them. And with that concludes chair report. And is anybody staff, Ms. Stone, anybody, Ms. Wallstrom, anything for staff to report? No. Okay. Councilor Allen, you had a question for staff.
Yes. Yeah, I had a constituent ask a question about what the process is to ensure that new businesses, some of which are more appropriate than others, but getting public trash cans on sidewalks in front of new businesses, for example, ice cream stores and things like that. Is there a process for Public Works or zoning or something like the parking requirements and the bike parking requirements that also is applicable to, if you're this size, then you have to have a public trash can on the sidewalk in front of you?
I will have to research that, but to my knowledge, there is not anything that requires that they provide.
Gotcha. So the ones that are there, did they just sort of,
The black trash cans,
I'm not even,
the metal, those were put in by Public Works.
because someone requested them because,
No, we went through the whole downtown area and looked at different, spacing them in different areas, and we put those out.
gotcha. So in all these new little commercial areas that are popping up that have similar types of businesses, how could we create
First,
a
is
future
there,
possibility? Yeah.
I mean, what's the decision threshold? I mean, how does somebody decide, oh, this gets a public trash can? So,
That I'm gonna have to look at.
so if you would research that, and I'd be interested to know, do you have a public trash can inventory? Where are they? How many are there? I know this has always been a point of contention between MTA WeGo and Public Works, right? There's always like the trash can at the bus stop and who empties it, and it's, I mean, 4 years later, I don't really know. So I think, based on your question, I think that would be good to know. So if you'll report back next time.
Okay.
All right, and with that, yes, ma'am.
One question I had asked last committee meeting about an update on the pending sidewalk projects already approved. Did we get any response?
Thank you. So that is in progress. I'm running a little bit behind on kind of a 2020 update as far as, so we've got kind of the bikeways in progress report. Absolutely want the same for sidewalks, and I appreciate your concern, but I think that's all kind of starting to dovetail with the conclusion work of this committee, but we absolutely
But
will be.
those are already approved though, the ones I'm wondering about.
Understood.
Not new projects, just already pending, approved and funded.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Chair, may I
Yes.
ask a question of
Yes.
Public Works too? I've gotten some questions from, about how Wilson County does recycling. They have their dumpsters kind of enclosed, and they also have them staffed, so that way there's not illegal dumping and people that are putting stuff in the wrong bins, that kind of thing. Is that something that you all could research and determine, like, how much does that cost Wilson County, and
Williamson does the same thing too.
do they?
Could you point out, we have different kinds of, we have convenience centers that are staffed.
Sure.
We do have convenience centers that are staffed, that have
Right.
the recycling containers there also.
I'm thinking about, these apparently are just standalone recycling centers that are not convenience centers.
We call those the drop-off sites.
Drop-off
and we have
sites.
several of those. But because we can't put a convenience center in every area, and I
Right.
know that Wilson County has their trash site is there with all of their recycling sites too. So Wilson County does not provide trash to its residents. They have to privately contract it, or they can bring it into that site. So that's part of why those sites are staffed and why everything is there together.
And that's uniform across the county, they don't, because I guess, I had two different residents that say that swore that they were just recycling, so that's the only reason why I'm
I'll
asking.
double check,
I
but-
appreciate that.
I think too, Kathleen Evans, starting this term, we had several conversations about the recycling contract. We've talked about how, changing dynamics, we're changing what we're accepting. So I think we should kind of bring a little more attention to that area and have another meeting. So I guess I would say particular questions about recycling, if we want to kind of aggregate those for the purposes of another meeting where we can address all these
Or if you
things.
want to create a subcommittee.
Right, or subcommittee, excellent suggestion, yes, okay. Alrighty, so we have reached 10 minutes in, so we need to move on to our agenda. Resolution RS 2020-157, Mendez, Henderson, and Hurt modifies the master list of architects and engineers originally approved by Resolution RS 94-1050. Do I have a motion?
Motion, so moved.
Second, okay. Colleagues, we discussed this last time, and then we had some colleagues on the floor of the main chamber who had concerns that were similar to those that we had expressed in committee. When I sent your agenda today, I brought your attention to a memo sent by R. John Cooper, J-O-N Cooper, from the Finance Department, And so I'm not sure if you all had a chance to review that, but in so doing, does anybody have any additional questions? Yes.
Just one quick comment. I appreciate the effort that is made there. I think that's, this is, John, we're talking about the notification to the engineering societies, and I had sent an email back just suggesting some other engineering societies that would be appropriate to contact as well.
I appreciate that. And what I was unclear of from the attachments, good afternoon, we'd like to take a moment to ensure you or whatever, but these are all dated Thursday, January 16th of this year. So
So I think
subsequent to our expression of concern, then that outreach was done, but we were talking about this a year ago, so.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I mean, that is the date that was on the email, but I don't know if that's when they sent it to everyone or not.
Is Ms. Hernandez-Lane here?
I have not seen her this afternoon.
One clarification that was made to me was that this list is the crime contract signers, and that what we talked about a year and a half ago was the subs. And so we have just pointed out that we haven't been applying the same principles to the primes, and we should.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So previously, only prime contractors.
I mean, I think the whole EOB invitation was about subcontractors.
Okay, and so heretofore, since when, subs weren't on the master list?
Subs have never been required to be on the master list.
Okay. Okay.
And we've not spelled out that contractors will be treated that same.
But I do think that if they are registered as a vendor, that they still qualify for this, according to what Michelle was saying at the last meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Worth pointing out also, and it's since been corrected, but this afternoon at our LGBTQ caucus meeting was pointed out that not all minority contractors were notified. Since that time, I believe it was Ms. Lane, correct me if I'm wrong, did notify the LGBTQ chamber, which in fact had, I think, 3 or 4 architectural firms that qualified. So that since has been handled, but still worth noting that that too was left out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what just I would express is that I appreciate, the response to the committee's concern, showing these emails that have been sent. But, when this came up last term, I think it was the concern that, hadn't been updated in years and years and years, like maybe 10 years, Mr. Jameson. Correct. And it was kind of like a question of like, well, why are we in such a hurry all of a sudden on these particular firms here? One of which we were kind of expanding the scope of work that they had historically done for the city, like adding architectural services, right? Which was not, to my knowledge, something that firm had an expertise in. So I think at that time we had posed questions to Ms. Hernandez-Lane about were we being intentional about reaching out to the breadth, of firms in this city. And so I had understood last term that there was going to be some intention in that regard. So I'm a little concerned that the only backup to evidence that is 2 emails dated January 16th, the day before a January 17th memo. So, I think, colleagues, there have been some kind of ongoing concerns about this process. I don't personally have any particular concerns about, the firms that are listed here. And so, I think our take on it at last committee was that it was, not necessarily need to hold up this because this is not some sort of annual thing. One of these resolutions can come through at any time, and that, whether by subcommittee or otherwise, that we need to probably give a little more attention to this space and look at it a little more specifically. And I think Ms. Hernandez-Lane rightly invited and welcomed that work when she was last here. So we'll take her up on that offer. But with that, again, I welcome any questions, but I think we did discuss this at length last time. So, are there any other?
Just,
Yes.
and this is not sure maybe who to best ask this of. This might be, it might wind up being a Michelle question. Mike might have some insight. Sharon might have some insight. With the North Nashville Bikeways project, one of the things we heard was the contractor apparently could not locate the correct, basically thermoplastic to implement bike lanes, which I guess from my standpoint, thinking of bike lanes as a relatively solved infrastructure problem for the past more than a decade surprised me. And I don't know if there's a contractor penalty process that applies here, but that struck me as a total absurdity from an implementation standpoint. If we can't literally do the very basics of simple infrastructure, we're really going to fail at infrastructure delivery. And this has caused significant confusion and, honestly, safety issues resulting from that, what should have been a complete layup for North Nashville infrastructure, which we have systematically been struggling to deliver. So I guess, first and foremost, is there a contractor penalty process for existing projects, and then how do we make sure that contractor scoring is lower if they absolutely fail to perform? So I'm open to comment here from staff on this.
I do know that Michelle, Ms. Lane, would have been here, but she is at a mandatory training at a seminar. We have later in your agenda, there's a sole source bill that she wanted to be here on, but just could not. She has to be at this training, so that's being deferred. And I will relay this question to her. I don't know the answer, but I will relay it to her to see what penalty provisions could apply in that North Nashville situation.
And I think just across the board, I think those of us colleagues who served on this committee, I really can't think of a department that had more consistent procurement problems than Public Works did. And so I don't know whether it's internal to Public Works, internal to procurement, whoever is organizing or managing the processes, but time and time again, when something is not going okay in Public Works, well, there was a problem in procurement, or that happened in procurement. I mean, we just saw it at varying levels, whether it's bikeways or sidewalks or
Armadillos.
Pardon?
Armadillos.
Right. Just a whole host of issues. So I really do, that's one among the things that I think in 2020 we really need to look at is kind of, procurement from a policy standpoint, but also specific to Public Works procurement. And so I appreciate your question there, Councilman. And I think Chair Young and I, maybe we'll kind of think about the best path forward on working with Ms. Hernandez-Lane and Public Works on trying to just do some work there to be helpful. So,
Madam Chair, I think maybe one of the points here is I know the administration has just recently announced some performance management initiatives, and I think between procurement and this, that is a likely target. I was extremely struck that where first we heard, hey, this is weather and scheduling, then it comes back around that, in fact, no, this is a truly incompetent contractor, and that should not satisfy anybody in this room.
okay, I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments on Resolution 157 regarding the master list? I have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, Councilor Hurt. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put okay. All right. RS 2020-170, O'Connell, Murphy, Henderson authorizes Boom Sign and Lighting, Inc. to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 535 Fifth Avenue South. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? Councilman O'Connell, where is this? What is it?
This is in Sobro. I'm trying to remember if the building is.
Hyatt House.
Yeah, it's a new hotel.
Another hotel. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, now we move on to bills on second reading. BL 2019-109 amends the Metro Code of Laws and substitute ordinance number BL 2019-1658 regarding shared urban mobility devices, acronym SUMD. We have sponsor proposed amendments, and Mr. Nash, I see that you also have an amendment as well. Yes.
Madam Chair, after talking with both, so we had a kind of an industry administration meeting last week, and then I got more input from residents. I'd like to move to defer this for 2 meetings,
Okay.
so that we have some time to have a little more community input, because I know, again, I'm very glad to be partnering with the administration to reconsider this entire policy scenario, but I know there was frustration when we first got this policy on the books that it looked like we weren't going to slow down enough to allow any community feedback, and I think from that standpoint, I'd like to allow urban residents in particular at least have a chance to respond to how the RFP might be constructed, and I'll be working with the administration on that.
Okay, so there is a motion from the lead sponsor to defer 2 meetings.
Can I make one point just before we can move on? I just want to let the sponsor know that I spoke with the Disability Coalition before I walked in here, and they're still very much opposed to scooters in the downtown area for the people that they represent, and I hope that the sponsor and the people that are in this conversation will at least listen to them and try to help them get more on board with this, because right now they're totally opposed to this.
Right, I mean, so far, this has been a conversation between the administration and the industry, and I'm involved, but I think now it's time to look at if we're doing the right thing.
Chair O'Connell, just so we're in proper order, so we have a motion to defer 2 meetings. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so our conversation now is around whether or not we are deferring this. So,
Thank you,
Councilor
Chair. Do we have any concerns related to what we're doing until such time that the RFP hits the street and such time that an award takes place? Are we in a status quo? Is there any extension needed on anything that we're doing currently with, I believe, the 4 companies that we have?
Mr. Jameson, can you respond on behalf of the administration?
Sure. Essentially, the previous legislation that was adopted near the twilight of the last term applied a 50% fleet rule, and that would continue on until the completion of this RFP. This RFP is to be completed within 120 days. My understanding from Mr. Fields is that the committee is pretty well along. I do not anticipate they would take the full 120 days. But in the meantime, the status quo will continue to apply.
Okay, so from the administration's perspective, I mean, I've not been a part of these conversations. I appreciate lead sponsor here. Y'all are supportive of deferring this?
I think community engagement's always a great thing, so yes.
Alrighty, with that, any other conversation about it? Okay, there's a motion to defer 2 meetings. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Next bill on second reading, BL 2020-116, Hager, Pulley, and others, an ordinance Title 13 of the Metro Code to provide for a modern symbol of access for disabled persons to be used on Metro government property and rights of way. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. I do not actually have a letter for this.
I've signed on to that.
Okay, Councilman Roden, you're on the bill?
Yep.
Okay. So, colleagues, I did a little online research about this because I was like, hey, what's this all about? But Councilman Roden, based on what you were saying earlier about being in...
Well, it's just, I know they passed it at the state. I know Darren Jernigan, they had the old sign. There's a new, more modern sign that kind of, I guess it's more...
Leaning forward in
Yeah, the leaning forward, yeah, and that's all it is that they want to change the signs to get it more modern and up to date with what the actual movement is as far as the signs go. So that's what it is, and I know Larry's the lead sponsor because he's got a disabled child as well, so that's why Larry's on the bill, so.
And my understanding is this is only going to apply to new signs. They're not going to go
Yeah,
back and change
it's a
out.
new sign. They're not going out and changing all the signs out. It's just when they start putting out the new signs. So.
And
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
Do we have any excess inventory of the current signs that we need to go through before we go procure new signs?
I have no idea.
Yes, we do.
Can we make it so that we use those up.
Yeah, we need to talk to
Before we-
Larry. I'll
Or
talk to
can
Larry.
those be recycled or
sell
sold
them?
back?
Yeah, or sell them.
Okay, based on the current language of the bill, is that something that you all would want to amend to that effect? Is this amendable on third? Ms. Costonis, do you know? Title 13.
Normally, I think they're not.
Does that have to be written in to happen?
Not necessarily. It could just be a suggestion to staff.
Without a suspension of the rules.
Pardon?
Without a suspension of the rules, I think normally it could not be amended on third.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Maybe a separate
What is the value of the ballpark, of the ones that we have on?
I have no idea, and
I
I'm
mean-
to speak, but I know that we keep inventory of those items.
Might be $20, it might be $1,000.
So I apologize. I did look online generally to understand kind of the movement behind the sign to show movement, but I did fail to look at the analysis. Who performed the analysis on this, and did that include a fiscal note?
Let's see, the fiscal note says it's gonna be cost neutral because they're only gonna be, their signs will cost the same, and since they're not retrofitting, it's only gonna be going forward.
Okay, but didn't analyze the sunk cost of all the other handicap signs that we've already purchased?
No.
Okay.
Do you have an idea of how much a sign costs?
I'd move a one meeting
Yeah,
deferral.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the committee sounds generally supportive of this, and we appreciate the folks bringing it, but maybe let's just work out some of the technicalities, whether we want to amend them or just have so, Ms. Wallstrom, are you clear on what we're kind of wanting to hear back on?
Cost per
Related to that?
sign and how much we have in inventory.
All right, so we had a motion to approve, but I would entertain a
I think
different motion.
Councilmember Allen.
Yeah,
Councilman Allen?
move to defer one meeting.
Defer
Get
one
information.
meeting.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor of a one meeting deferral?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, BL 2020-119, Porterfield, Murphy, and others renames a portion of Smith Springs Road between Smith Springs Road and Castlegate Drive to Castlegate Drive. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Council Lady Porterfield, thank you for being here. Is there anything that you wanted to share about this?
Yes, thank you so much. I would appreciate your support. Currently, Castlegate Drive curves, and the very small portion of the curve is actually named Smith Springs Road, and it intersects with Smith Springs Road. Everyone in the community already calls that portion of the street Castlegate. The sign actually says Castlegate and Smith Springs Road. No one knew that this was even named Smith Springs until we recently had a 911 call, and it was confusing to get the intersection of Smith Springs and Smith Springs, so that's why we're renaming it.
I appreciate that, and thank you for bringing attention to that. And then I would just say to colleagues too, I think we all have those funny little spurs of things that have been cut off, so kudos to you, and I think let's all be thinking about if we have some of those that would reduce confusion and enhance safety. So thank you, Council Lady. We have a motion to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, BL 2020-120. Welsh, Murphy, and others abandons alley number 1854 right-of-way from Landers Avenue to Grandview Avenue. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Council Lady Welsh, anything that you would like to share about this? Okay, great. All in favor? Aye. Yes, okay. BL 2020-121, Murphy, Henderson, and O'Connell abandons a portion of Ensworth Avenue right-of-way from Ensworth Avenue to Woodlawn Drive between two very long numbered parcels, but this is effectively at the intersection of Ensworth Avenue and Woodlawn Drive for the public's awareness. I believe I have a late breaking note from Council Lady Murphy requesting approval. I do. Do I have a motion?
Official letter.
Yes, official letter, yes. Okay, all in favor? Aye. And with